Hi there guys, Strix here bringing you an update video once again over the new updates to Oldschool Runescape on June 9th, 2016. The big update this week was the Catacombs of Kourend. The Catacombs are a sprawling series of caves underneath Kourend, and they span the entirety of the city. The initial entrance is found by inspecting the statue of Kourend. There are 4 other entrances found at each of the corners of the catacombs. These correspond to each of the houses. The only house that does not have its own entrance is the Piscarilius house, but that is located very close to the statue in the center of Kourend. This means that there are many ways to quickly access the catacombs once you have unlocked each of the entrances. The Hasidius exit and the Lovakang exit are both located fairly close to a bank. There are no favor requirements to use the catacombs or to kill any of the monsters inside. The entire caves, excluding one section, is multicombat, which is one of the main draws to the caves. Also, every bone you can bury inside the catacombs will restore your prayer points by 1. This includes using a bone crusher. This makes using prayers more attractive in the catacombs. Currently, at the time of making this video, there is no difference for burying regular bones, big bones, or dragon bones. They all restore 1 prayer point. Speaking of the monsters, within the catacombs you will find several new monsters, as well as more powerful versions of existing monsters. A full list can be found by navigating to the patch notes in the description or by clicking the on-screen annotation. Notable additions of old monsters include Greater Demons, Dagonauts, Abyssal Demons, and Hellhounds. Since the area is multi-combat, it will be very easy to group up multiple enemies for some relaxing XP gains. The new monsters that are being added are Twisted Banshees, Warped Jellies, Mutated Bloodvelds, Greater Necreals, Deviant Spectres, Blue Brutal Dragons, Red Brutal Dragons, and Black Brutal Dragons. The rewards for exploring and slaying in the catacombs are varied in nature. For some, the best rewards will be the multi-combat area free of cannons for them to do their slayer tasks. Particularly, the Hellhounds and Bloodvelds are often very crowded, and this will provide a nice place to slay those creatures. There are Dust Devils here as well, and that's one of the major rewards. It is now somewhat viable to burst, chin, or barrage Dust Devils for a quick but expensive slayer task. Iron Men will also find a lot of useful things in the Catacombs of Kourend. Particularly, Twisted Banshees are very good for pure essence drops. I've heard people telling me they're over 5,000 pure essence an hour. Deviant Spectres also provide more alks than Aberrant Spectres and drop 3 to 11 noted Limpet roots uncommonly. This is very nice because currently the best method of obtaining Limpet roots is farming cockatrices. Blue Brutal Dragons also provide a method of obtaining blue dragonhide vambraces and bodies before you ever have the crafting level to make them. This is very useful for Iron Men looking to do hard clue scrolls. Black Brutal Dragons also now provide a fixed 1 in 512 chance of getting a Dragon Spear for your elite clues. Iron Men everywhere will rejoice that you don't have to rely so much on a really high RNG rate to get yourself a Dragon Spear. Besides just having some nice drops for Iron Men, Black Brutal Dragons also provide a solid drop table in general. They drop Dragon Bones and 2 Black D Hides with every single kill. They also drop 5 Lava Dragon Scales noted as an uncommon drop, 3 Runite Ores as a rare drop, and also have access to elite clues. There's also a very rare chance at getting a 1 in 32,000 drop of a Dragon Full Helm. All the Brutal Dragons also drop Dragon Arrow Tips, Dragon Dart Tips, and Dragon Javelin Heads. All the Brutal Dragons also have very good alks on their tables, meaning these dragons are really good profit. Additionally, they're located quite close to the Lovakang area bank. Now, every monster in the catacombs also has a chance to drop either an Archaic Shard or a Dark Totem piece. This chance is calculated by 1 divided by 500 minus the monster's hit points. Personally, I found that the King Sand Crabs were pretty good at farming these drops. They have 200 HP, don't do too much damage, and you can find them right next to the Hasidius area bank, so you can camp them for ages. The Archaic Shards are used to upgrade your Darklight into a new weapon called the Arclight. You must use 3 Archaic Shards to upgrade the weapon, and this will grant it 1,000 charges. The weapon will degrade, and you must use additional shards to charge the weapon back up. The weapon is meant to be better than the Abyssal Tentacle at slaying demons. I say meant to be because the current implementation of the Arclight is really bizarre. It seems to give you a fixed amount of bonus stats that do not scale with super attack potions, super strength potions, piety, or even being on task. It may have been meant to do this, but it currently doesn't do it properly. This makes the weapon function very oddly, and it currently isn't even better than a whip for most players, unless you have very low stats. This will be fixed in next week's update according to the JMods. The Arclight will also be receiving a graphical update in next week's update. Next, I'd like to cover the Dark Totem. 3 pieces of a totem can be combined together to make a Dark Totem. These totems will be used in next week's update to give access to a new boss in the Kourend Catacombs. It is currently unknown what the boss will give other than a guaranteed drop of a clue scroll. You can farm as many of these totems as you want given that you combine them into full totems, so get stocking them up for next week's update. If you do not combine the pieces, you will stop receiving totem drops. This is useful if you just want to farm Archaic Shards. My thoughts on the Catacombs overall that it is a positive update. It adds a lot of things that players have been asking for, such as more ways to slay Hellhounds and Bloodvelds. Additionally, players have asked that we pull a Dragon Hosta, since all the Brutal Dragons seem to drop Hostas, but the Brutal Black Dragons drop Dragon Spears instead. On the negative side of things though, I don't really like the fact that there are Dust Devils in the Catacombs. They don't really seem to make sense to be there, and it doesn't really fit for me. Also, my thoughts on people bursting and chinning in the Catacombs is kind of even keel. Bursting and chinning aren't free, despite people telling you that. And it's in fact very expensive to do bursting or chinning. The XP rates that you receive doing these activities should be pretty high given their cost. And people aren't going to be making insane profit from barraging abyssal demons, and whips aren't going to tank under 1 mil apiece. I mean, they may dip in price a bit, but who says that whips are supposed to be fixed at 2.4 mil forever anyways? So overall, my thoughts on people bursting and chinning is that, yeah, some people might do it, if they have a lot of stacks of money or if they just want really fast Slayer XP. Overall, the Catacombs isn't going to increase Slayer XP very much at all. I would check out the Reddit thread by Maristar. He has a very good explanation why the Catacombs won't affect Slayer XP rates very much at all. If anything, it might push efficient Slayer up about maybe 2 to 5k an hour, which is not insane. And I think most of that's on the back of Dust Devils. Dust Devils go from being a currently block task to now, well, you can burst them fairly easily, at a cost, but you can burst them fairly effectively for good XP rates. Everything else is kind of out the window. Now, the Arclight itself seems pretty awesome, and I've been wanting a buff to the Darklight for ages, so I think it was pretty nice to get it. But the implementation currently is very flawed, and for most players, it's not even good. I mean, Wook showed us the community a graph, and more or less, if your stats are decent, it's worse than a whip. So thankfully, Jagex has noticed this error, and they're going to be buffing this sword accordingly. So I'm pretty happy about that as well. As one final little update this week, we got a nice little bit of quality of life added to the Woodcutting Guild. It received that extra little bit of polish that it didn't quite have last week. So the +7 woodcutting level boost that was initially missing from the guild on release has been added. This is now definitely the best place in the game to be cutting logs if you can get to it. Another little buff for Iron Man this week is at the Woodcutting Guild. You can now buy axes from a shop there. They sell all the way up to rune axes, so Iron Man everywhere rejoice. You don't have to camp nature spirits anymore, or lava dragons. And finally, there is now an additional bank deposit box to be found in the Woodcutting Guild for even easier banking of your logs. I hope you all enjoyed this week's updates, and I will see you guys next time for more of my thoughts.